In ID 396, we are looking at how college students think about death and dying. So first we kind of started by looking at different research articles and reading this huge report called Dying in America to just kind of see what was already out there.
And one of the findings from last year's students was that there's not a lot of literature about young adults and conversations with end-of-life care, death and dying.
So I guess before this class, my relationship with death and grief and just dying in general was really uncomfortable. So I thought that this would be a good context to start to develop that working relationship and some of the vocabulary and understandings about death and dying.
I think that thinking about death actually can help you live a more fulfilling, more intentional life, which I think helps lead to happiness.
Like one of the goals of the class is talking about what makes a good life and just acknowledging the fact that we're all going to die and that it could happen at any time helps us focus in the present.
Some resources that people could use to sort of initiate these conversations are things like Honoring Choices. They have a lot of tools on their website kind of detailing what advanced care planning is, what an advanced directive is, because a lot of that jargon gets very confusing, especially when care professionals use it and people in the media use it, kind of understanding like what that is.
So as students in this course, we participated in something called a death over dinner. And so basically that's just what it sounds. You get together, you have some food and you talk about death.
One of my assignments for this class is making all of my students in pairs first do a death over dinner with me, and then host their own death over dinner with students from St. Olaf.
So you just get together and you talk about death and you're eating food, so it's pretty casual and conversational. That's a great way to sort of dip your feet into the conversation before really diving in.
So I think for people of all ages, it's very important to engage in conversations about death. In particular, a lot of our research has shown that people want to have these conversations, but don't really have the tools to do so, and people do seem to have a preference about what they want near end of life. So, for example, I hosted a death over dinner with some friends recently, and people knew that they wanted to be cremated, or they wanted their ashes to be spread in certain locations, or they wanted a certain song to be played at their funeral.
And I just thought, those are life-giving conversations to have with people we love.
What makes a good life? I think being grounded in family and friends and community and really relationships make a good life.
To me, what makes a good life is spending time with people that you love.
I think one thing that I've tried to do recently is focus more on my relationships with people and kind of think if I died today, how would they remember me?
I think a good life comes from finding purpose, or finding something that gives you meaning. Maybe that's through relationships or service, but you need a reason to want to stick around. And having some fun along the way is also important.
I think if I were to create a billboard, I would say something like, talking about death doesn't summon it.
Something like live freely and don't let anything hold you back. I would say the cliche life is short, but I kind of like the other one. I kind of like it that way, yeah.
You should live life to the fullest because you don't know when it's going to end.
It's always too early until it's too late. So the idea that you're always going to think that you have more time to talk about these things and to plan for it, but then the day comes and you haven't. And so just getting out there that you need to do this now because soon it's going to be too late.
I think it places a limit on this life that we feel is unlimited. And so for me, that incites gratitude because it just helps me recognize that every moment is a gift.
Being grounded in the reality of death helps us live a fuller life in the present moment.